Welcome everybody out to podcast number 419. We've got Ryan Schmitt here with us, and we're going to talk today about how to really train the upcoming generation and kick them off to a good start. Ryan, you want to say hi to everybody?
Hey everyone, how's it going? Good to be with you today. Driving down the road, it's good to have you here with me, Jason.
I love it. All right, stay with us.
This is the Elevate Construction Podcast, delivering remarkable content for workers, leaders, and companies in construction wanting to take their next step. Get ready to step out of your comfort zone with Jason Schroeder as he encourages you to do better, live a remarkable life, and expect more. Let's go.
All right, welcome everybody. We're going to do our podcast today about how to really build up and provide good life-changing experiences for the up-and-coming generation. Ryan was telling me about a story this morning, and it got me to thinking about some of the neat experiences that I was able to share and participate in when I was younger. And so, Ryan, you remember that story where you've got buddies or your own kids, you give them an opportunity to work on a crew and the impact that has? Can you tell us that story again?
Yeah, so I've had some really positive results of instances where I've had some friends of mine who've got kids who are in the college ages, and they're coming home from the summer and they're looking for their sons to find a place to work. And like many of the character building opportunities that we might have working hard, they often think of ditch digging and construction, which we do. And so on more than one occasion, we've put these young men to work on a pipe crew or a punch out crew. And it's been a common theme. What I've heard at the end of the summer, they said, man, my son has never slept so hard at the end of a day and worked so hard, but he's never talked more about it than experience. And what I mean by that is, he connects with the crew, the sense of camaraderie, the sense of accomplishment, the sense of just getting something done and completed. And there's so much to where these young men, they'll go back to college, and then they'll come back the next summer, they'll come by and visit with the company or visit with the crew. Or if I'm running into their dads might mention how, oh yeah, he still talks about Shorty on the punch out crew, or one guy or the other guy, and how much of an impact it made. So it makes me feel great too that it's such an impactful event for these guys.
So I should mention that Ryan is the owner and president of Petticoid Civil Contractors, and he's down here in Florida. I get to come out and spend time with him quite a bit. He and Lauren run an amazing company with an amazing culture and a lot of really world-class business systems based on some really good books and good systems and coaching and some of the best training in the world. So he owns the business, and they have a number of different crews where these kiddos can come out and really experience what it's like to be on a crew. And so, one quick thought for me and the question I'm going to ask you, Ryan, is why do you think it's so impactful? But before I ask you that, I hear a lot nowadays about people discussing the differences between generations. And I think there's some to it that's truth and some to it that's just being dismissive. But there's a lot of truth to the fact that the kids coming out of school nowadays, they're different. They use technology more. They're on text more. They don't like to talk in person as much. There's still a lot of hard workers there. And there are some differences, you know what I mean? Like you were expected, Ryan, to work hard when you were younger. And I've heard a lot of our generation say things like, well, I'm going to work hard and bust my butt and do well so that my kids didn't have to do the same things that I did. And I'm starting to wonder, are we doing the newer generation a disservice by saying that and doing that? Meaning, oh yeah, don't go work in the ditch, don't go shovel, don't go do those things. But were those critical experiences, were those life-changing moments, were those developmental phases like a rite of passage that helped these kids in our generation to really become good, productive citizens of society that we're just stealing from the new generation? There's no data behind that. I don't have any studies, but I do know for a fact that a lot of the kids nowadays, when you offer them a job, they're like, yeah, I went to college, I put in my time, I don't want to work a shovel. Well, heck, working a shovel is the best thing I ever did. So Ryan, let me ask you a question. Why do you think it was so impactful for them? What experience do they go through? What is the awakening there?
Well, I think it's, a couple things. One, it's the sense of accomplishment. They worked hard all day, and at the end of the day, they saw some results. And two, and probably more significantly, is the sense of camaraderie and being part of a team that, they had something to do, they got it done, and they got closer and closer through the entire summer when they were working together. But speaking more to your point about, there's a net cast over the younger generation of like, oh, they're different, how do you connect with them? And the younger generation, they just don't get it. And, I do think they're different. I've got teenage daughters, and I'm constantly trying to connect and bridge those differences. But I think as employers, you got to do the same thing. And especially when you hear, well, they're different. They want to know the big picture. They want to know what's going on. They want to feel like they're part of something greater. Well, my comment is that, well, heck, so do I. So does everyone, right? Why is that so bad? And why is that so different? And that's why I think what we're doing with some of the training you're helping us facilitate, Jason, is doing exactly that. The strong worker huddles in the morning where we're bringing in the entire work site, whether an entry-level laborer or a seasoned 20-year heavy equipment operator, everyone's on the same page and everyone's given the respect. And I think that the thought of respect behind sharing the information of the bigger picture is huge, because I've seen guys react that are 20 years into their career. I've seen them react more favorably when they're treated with respect and given the knowledge, the bigger picture. Well, if that's how the younger generation is different, I don't see them so different. So I think it's just, how you run your company, how you build your culture, and how you drive that all-inclusiveness, given the picture, the bigger picture on everything that's being done.
That's a funny thing, because let me tell you a kind of a funny story. People might be grossed out by this if you live on the West Coast and you know what Del Taco is, but I grew up with, and I've said this before because I'm proud of it, I was taught to work hard by Mexican workers in Southern California. I'm proud of saying that. That's not racist, that's not ethnic profiling, that's just the way it is. They were Mexican nationals that taught me how to work hard, and I thank God for them and their culture and what they taught me. I used to go out there with those crews, finish concrete, and our favorite thing of the morning was busting our butt and then going to Del Taco. And if I was to go to Del Taco myself, I'd be like, that's gross. But my favorite thing that day, I worshipped it, was the thought of going and getting a breakfast burrito and sitting around with my buddies on the crew, right? And BSing a little bit and eating some burritos, you know what I mean? And like, it wasn't the food. It was the experience. It was the camaraderie. It was building the team, right? It was those wonderful, it was the interaction. It was the thought of working hard. That actually brings up another point, is I think you can get addicted to working hard. And I'm wondering, there's a point where we, as we're business owners or leaders, or where we have to take care of family, where we have to curb that a little bit. But I'd rather convert a hardworking, addicted workaholic back to a balanced life than entice a lazy person to work hard. That's my preference, right? But isn't what we're trying to do to get them addicted to working hard? And isn't that exactly what you're talking about with these experiences?
Yeah. And, I see it in how I engage with our field crews. These guys day in and day out are working hard. They're doing what's asked of them. And I think when you marry that commitment to working hard with, when I go out there and I shake those guys' hands and I'm saying, hey, what you working on today? And I give the attaboys, and which is genuine, because I love that and I appreciate what they're doing for our team. The combination of that too is just, you can't match that. You can't beat it. Yeah. You cannot beat it. And that's why I often find that some of the best value I bring to our operation as a company is just being there for those guys and recognizing the hard work and being out there with them, realizing or having them realize that I appreciate what they do. And in many instances, I cannot even do what they do.
Yeah.
Right. Everyone's got their own role, and I got to be really good at my role, and I got to make sure that we got some really great guys in every position doing their roles. And, my presence out there, not that I'm tooting my horn or that, I'm that much of an impact, but I think anyone who's working hard who receives appreciation, that just reinforces their commitment to working hard the next day and the next week and moving forward. So, I think, and at the same time, when I can give them the picture of why what they're doing is so important, it's a phenomenal connection, and it really makes a lot of difference. Earlier today, we were on the job site where I was telling the story of walking up to a pipe crew, and I got a guy who's jumping out of the ditch who's tailing pipe, which is just kind of a skilled laborer, and he's telling me how critical his work is, because when they get the pipe all laid, they're going to be on schedule to meet a paving date. And the only reason he knew that information is because he was included into a all-inclusive job site worker huddle with everyone in our company. And, you could tell he was that much more engaged with the hard work he was doing because he was included in the bigger picture. And that's what we're committed to doing. And, I want to thank you publicly and for helping us do that, because it's great to see those guys get that fulfillment and satisfaction. And I'm like, whether that guy's a millennial or a 20-year veteran of construction, it really doesn't matter, because I think it resonates with both.
I agree. The other thing, these kids that you're giving these opportunities for, they come back and they really respect the people they work for, right? And the foreman. And I think that that's a neat opportunity that they have an awakening and realize how brilliant these workers are, how brilliant these foremen are, and how much life experience and wisdom they have. It's a shame that there's so many people over the last couple of decades that have said, yeah, the only way to be successful is to go to college. I love college, great, but I'm just saying that's not the only way. Like, we shouldn't badmouth trade work and we shouldn't badmouth going to college, right? Those are both viable options. And I think sometimes people grow up and they're like, oh yeah, that guy in the ditch, I disrespect that. I'll never do that. That's beneath me. And they go out in these crews and they're like, wow, there's some pretty sharp people out here, right? Pretty wise people. And I think they gain that respect. One thing I'd like to ask as we get to the end of the podcast here is, I wonder if we just don't have flow in the positions. Here's what I mean, Ryan, is it like somebody asked me the other day, I think it was Christina. Anyway, so she asked me, how can we get good positions for foremen at the point where, or workers where their bodies might be a little bit worn out? She was like, maybe they could go do building information modeling, or they could do scheduling, or they could, be a superintendent or something that would reward their wisdom and their experience, but that would require some higher skill sets, right? I'm just wondering, like, if we did a better job of teaching superintendents Excel, of teaching foremen how to use computers, and you are doing a better job, Ryan, that's not what I'm saying, but if we did a better job of showing them a path of, hey, once you reach foreman, then you can be a superintendent, then you can go into survey, then you can go into BIM, would people be less, so this is a question to you, would people be less freaked out about starting as a laborer because they could see, okay, this is a stepping stone to something greater in the future? What are your thoughts there?
Oh, I agree 100%. If you show people a path to growth, I think it totally changes their outlook. That's why every position we have at our company, you got a level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and in some cases, you might have a level even above a 5, like a general superintendent is above a superintendent level 5. And, not only do we attach pay rates to those levels, but we also attach skill sets. And so if you've got a certain skill set, you can be at a certain level, but if you achieve a greater skill set, you can go to the next level. And that's why we're focused on, we don't call our HR, it's team development. And it's all about developing our team. We want to get the best people on the team. And then, okay, what can we do them to incent their growth? And, a lot of it kind of speaks a little bit to what you started saying about, as people get older, maybe their physical attributes, might wane a little bit, and they rely more on their mental attributes. So, what are we doing to get a superintendent Excel trained? What are we doing to get a superintendent or a foreman or anyone else for that matter, trained in use of their iPads and the software that we use for production planning and time card and daily logs? The job site, we're just that. We're talking to our 60-plus-year-old superintendent, and he was telling us when he came to work for us, he had never sent or received an email, and the first email he ever sent was in response to our COO's request. And look at him now; he's using the iPad. He's navigating his way through Excel, and he's doing a lot of the things on software, Microsoft Teams, that he otherwise never would have done. And while he's still he's got a little bit of apprehension about the technology, but he's got little incremental, successes that are continuing to build on his confidence. So I think the future is bright for where he could build on his skills.
Yeah, I really agree. So I'll do a closing statement that if you have something you want to close out with, Ryan, that'd be great. But my closing statement is, and I've told this story before, but it bears repeating. Three times at church, there were these young kiddos that were like 17, 18, 19, or maybe they were back off of their missions, and they're 21, 20, 22 years old. And I'm like, so they're doing school or they're starting school, and I'm like, yeah, you can come out and you could probably make your way into a field engineer position, and then we make in construction management, you can make anywhere from $120,000 a year to in certain circumstances $260 total package once you get incentivized and get your retirement and your stock and all your benefits and everything. Like, you can make a lot of money. And and I've heard over and over, and this was exactly what happened. One of them said, well, I did some AP courses in high school. I think I'm above for running a shovel. I'm going to go to school to be an electrical engineer. I want to go as far as I can. So I have no problem with the electrical engineer if that's what you're passionate about. I have no problem with college. I think it's great. The comment of I want to go as far as I can is the one that bothered me, right? I can make more and construction management than an electrical engineer can. I mean, bottom line. The other thing is, I can have a better work-life balance. The electrical engineers I know in Phoenix sometimes work all weekend to get a design out, because that's just how that work goes, right? So the perspective is what bothers me. And my message to anybody is, hey, it will not do anyone any harm. In fact, to Ryan's point, it will benefit you if you get out there one summer at a minimum and get on a shovel and get in the trenches and get dirty and get out and learn how wonderful these workers that build America are, and really get some dirt under your fingernails and learn to be addicted to work, learn to be addicted to accomplishing something, and learn what teamwork's all about, and learn these concepts of respect. And so I would encourage anyone to do that. In fact, that's what our boot camps for field engineers are designed to do. So Ryan, what would be your closing advice as a successful business owner with multiple degrees, a successful family man? What would you counsel people?
Yeah, so I'll add to that. And I've got a bunch of buddies who are engineers, and they are incredibly bright, accomplished people. And I as I said, I'm multiple degrees, and I've got I sometimes say more degrees than a rectal thermometer. However, that doesn't do me much good in any good. And I respect the college degree, but I got to tell you, I learned more after college than I did during college. I don't regret it. I was actually a pretty good college student, college social student. I studied the ways of the social endeavors. Maybe not so much academically, but because I really wasn't focused, I didn't pursue an engineering curriculum. I had my first bachelor's degree. I came out, I started making $7.50 an hour and cleaning out a pond. But I learned about hard work, that talking about burritos tasting tasty, no food ever tasted as good as it did when I was doing that. And then I stumbled into construction, and man, I tell you, what I did learn after school, stumbling into construction, was, wow, I love this industry. This is going to be my future. the people that are in it work hard. We build great things, and finding your passion and finding what you want to do, I think, is paramount. And then just commit to continuous learning. Like I said, I've learned more outside the walls of any academic institution through continued reading and learning and podcasts. Elevate Construction, I got to say, is one of them for me. And I appreciate everything you do for our industry and our company. And that's where I think if anyone really finds that passion, that, they can continue and do whatever they want, especially in construction, because not only do we have to solve technical problems, we have to solve people problems and leadership problems. And people can do both really good, can basically chart their path to success that's unlimited.
Yeah. Amen. Well, Ryan, thank you for doing this podcast. And you know the tradition, 1, 2, 3.
On we go.
That's awesome. We got that the first time.
Please join us next time in elevating the entire construction experience for workers, leaders, and companies coast to coast. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to share with your construction colleagues and help us spread the word by rating, subscribing, and leaving a review on your preferred podcast listening platform. We really appreciate it. We'll catch you next time on the Elevate Construction Podcast.